The submariners fetched a thick rope. When they tried to tie Gertrude up with it, the gorilla fought them off. But the submariners were strong and worked fast. In no time they had wound the rope round the gorilla so she couldn't move her arms. Then they pulled hard on the rope. The boy ran at the submariners. "Eric, no!" cried Sid. "They'll kill us!" The bold man picked up the boy by the scruff of his neck and carried him down the gangway. Next, the 3 prisoners were bustled into a cramped cabin, before being pushed down onto the floor. Their hands were held behind their backs as they were chained to a metal pipe. Gertrude was chained in the middle, with Sid and Eric on either side. It was agony for all of them. "It'll be all right, Gertrude," said the boy. "We'll get out of here. I don't know how, but we will." "We can't let these blighters win," agreed Sid. The 3 brutish submariners admired their handiwork. They chuckled to themselves before leaving the cabin, locking the door behind them. It looked as if they were in the captain's private quarters. There was a narrow bed, a small but elegant desk and chair, a clock on the wall, and a Nazi flag. In pride of place on the shelf was a silver-framed photograph of the captain being awarded an Iron Cross First Class, one of the highest medals in the German military, by Adolf Hitler himself. There were also maps and charts pinned around the walls, showing the route of the U-boat's top-secret mission. It was travelling along the English south coast now, before it making its way up the Thames estuary and finally arriving in London. This map was marked in the exact same place as the map Eric had spotted in Seaview Towers. Parliament had been scribbled next to a spot circled in red. You didn't need to be a genius to translate it. "This must be their target," guessed Eric, "the Houses of Parliament." "Blow that up and it's not just goodbye Churchill, it's goodbye entire government too," said Sid. "Britain will be brought to its knees. Blasted bad luck that we didn't get to a telephone to warn anyone. There still must be something we can do to stop them." Gertrude was leaning her head to one side, clearly trying to follow the conversation. She was struggling to keep up, but nodding away with the pair. Suddenly there was the sound of voices outside. "Shh!" sushed Sid. "Let's listen." The gorilla angled one of her big furry ears in the direction of the door. Outside, the captain was having an argument in German with the twins. "That captain's not happy about us upsetting their plans, not happy one bit," was Sid's verdict. After a while, the door was unlocked. The captain entered his cabin, sporting a sinister smile. "Good evening," he said in perfect English. "Welcome aboard my U-boat. I am Captain Spear. Well, 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 what an unlikely trio of spies we have. An old man, a little boy, and a monkey." "Ape," corrected Eric. He couldn't help himself. Gertrude nodded her head. "I stand corrected. Ape. The question is," continued the captain, crouching down so that he was at head height with them, "who would you have told about our top-secret mission?" Then he left a long, uncomfortable silence hanging in the air. It was extremely tempting to fill it, but Sid said nothing, and Eric followed his lead. Gertrude, however, had other ideas. She threw a big, wet raspberry right in the captain's face. Sid and Eric burst out laughing. Spear smiled, though not in a way that suggested he found it funny. The famous British sense of humour. "Have a good laugh, my friends. In a matter of hours, your beloved Prime Minister, Mr. Winston Churchill, will be dead." "You won't succeed!" exclaimed Eric. "Oh, yes, we will. My mission has been personally supervised by the Fuhrer himself. Hitler knows that with Churchill dead, Britain will be like a chicken with its head chopped off, running around in a fury for a few moments before it simply keels over and dies. Whack, whack, whack." Spear's impersonation of a headless chicken was surprisingly good. "And that will be the perfect moment to strike. The Nazi invasion of Britain will finally begin, and you will all kneel before the Fuhrer." "I've already warned 10 Downing Street all about the mission," lied Eric. "Have you now?" "They know that a Nazi U-boat is heading to the Houses of Parliament and that Churchill is the target." Sid and Gertrude turned their heads to look at Eric, clearly praying that the boy knew what he was doing. "Interesting, very interesting," purred Spear. And how did a little boy like you contact 10 Downing Street exactly? Sent a postcard? No, I radioed them on the wireless at Seaview Towers, replied Eric, thinking fast. Sid and Gertrude nodded along with Eric as Spear's face darkened with worry. I would be most surprised if a boy like you was able to work a complex piece of equipment like that. It was easy. I do science at school, and I actually listen in that lesson, said Eric, lying again. He didn't listen in any lessons. You are lying, snapped Spear. How can you be sure, Captain Spear, said Sid. That's why you and the twins are keeping us alive, isn't it? This is true, old-timer. Still, the wireless was used only for listening, not for speaking. It was built especially for our spies in Britain, Bertha and Helene Brown. With the radio, they could listen into British Secret Service communications. It had to be on British soil, as the signals could not pick up in Germany or under the sea as we are now. So that's how you found out where Churchill would be, said the boy. Exactly right, child. The madams are genius code breakers. They discovered that your Prime Minister is having a top secret conference with all the members of his government at midnight tonight. The heads of the British Army, Navy and Air Force will also be in attendance. We will wipe them out all in one fell swoop. Sid, Eric and Gertrude gulped. The plan was even more dastardly than they thought. Who do you think you are trying to kill Churchill? Demanded Sid. I think, in fact I know, that I am the most decorated captain in the Nazi German army, navy. Just at Dunkirk alone I torpedoed 3 of your British warships. These words startled Eric. His father was killed when the boat on which he was fleeing France, HMS Grafton, was torpedoed. The boy could feel a fury raging inside him. Not HMS Grafton, he demanded. Captain Spear smiled himself at the memory. Yes, the biggest of them all, the Grafton. Murderer! Shouted Eric, shaking with anger. My dad was on that boat. Was he indeed? Smirked Spear. One of so many souls who died on that vessel. That is war. Eric broke down in tears at the memory of losing his dad. It was all coming back to him now. The look on Mum's face when he returned home from school, without a word being said, he'd known instantly that the worst had happened. He'd had nightmares imagining his father's final moments. I wish I could hold you right now, said Sid, shifting a little in his chains as the boy sobbed. Gertrude agreed. She knew the boy was hurting, even if she didn't know why. The gorilla nuzzled her big head to the boy's face, wiping away her tears with her fur. Thank you, Uncle Sid. Thank you, Gertrude, whispered the boy. She moaned quietly, trying to say something soothing. Eric couldn't speak gorilla, but he knew what she meant. I will take great pleasure in killing you, just as I took great pleasure in killing your father, purred Spear. Eric tried to wrestle out of the chains to give the wicked man a biff on the nose, but it was no use. You monster, cried the boy. That's just not war, that's pure evil. Gertrude tried to break free too. It was impossible. Instead, she growled at the man, baring her teeth. Spears took a step backwards. Gertrude could be a fearsome beast when she wanted to be. Control that walking fur coat of yours, or I will shoot it this instant, ordered Spear, reaching for the pistol in his holster. I hate to tell you this, Captain Spear, but your whole plan is doomed to fail, spat Sid. There is no way a torpedo is going to be able to destroy the whole of the Houses of Parliament. Torpedo? Laughed the captain. We are not going to fire a torpedo. Sid and Eric were mystified. Even Gertrude looked confused. Then how are you going to kill Churchill? Asked the old man. This entire U-boat is packed with explosives. Here, 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 he said, indicating the black cylinders strapped to the walls. There are hundreds of these packed all around the boat, each one of them as powerful as a torpedo. When this U-boat hits the Houses of Parliament, kaboom! We will destroy the entire building in the blink of an eye. Sid and Eric looked at each other, shocked. Gertrude looked shocked too, even though she didn't know what she was shocked about. But if the whole submarine is a bomb, then how will you survive? Spluttered the boy. I won't. Myself, the entire crew, the twins have all signed up for what is our final mission. Final mission, repeated Eric, incredulous. Yes, we will all die for the glory of the Führer. We will be celebrated as Nazi heroes until the end of time." "But what about us?" asked Eric, rather pitifully. "You will, of course, be killed too," purred Captain Spear. "But all in good time. Patience, as you British say, is a virtue." With that, he politely tipped his captain's cap and disappeared through the door. Time passed, but Eric kept checking the clock on the wall in the captain's cabin. It was now 12:15, just 15 minutes until midnight, before the U-boat and everyone in it was going to destroy the Houses of Parliament. Kaboom! Winston Churchill, everyone in the British government, and all 3 heads of the armed forces would be killed instantly. The Nazis would then be free to invade Britain just as they'd marched into so much of Europe. "Well, who'd have thought that by rescuing Gertrude from the zoo we'd end up here?" said Sid. "It's lucky we did," replied Eric. "Lucky? How?" "We've got a chance to be heroes." "You're right, that's all I've ever wanted," said the old man, tears budding in his eyes. "My legs were taken from me all those years ago on my very first day on the battlefields of France. I was sent straight back to Blighty. Now I've got one last chance to finally be a hero. This is it. We can do it, Uncle Sid. Me and you, and of course Gertrude, can save Churchill." Gertrude nodded. Gertrude wasn't exactly sure what she was nodding for, but she was always up for adventure. "How can we?" asked Sid. "I don't know yet. I'm only 11. But first things first, we need to get out of these chains," said the boy, rattling away at them with little effect. "They're impossible for us to break through," added Sid as he tried through. "For us, yes, but maybe not for Gertrude. She's so strong. She broke through her cage, remember?" This stopped Sid in his tracks. The boy had a point. "But how are we going to tell Gertrude to break through the chains? I don't speak gorilla, and neither do you." "She'll understand if we mime," suggested Eric. "She might." Both of them performed their best pantomime of the chains being torn apart. But sadly, Gertrude merely shook her head and frowned as if they were both bananas. "I've got an idea," exclaimed the boy. "If we tickle her, she might just wriggle enough and break this pipe. Then we'd be free." In his head, Eric nodded to the pipe, running along the floor. It was a thick steel pipe, one of hundreds that snaked along the length of the U-boat. "Worth a try," agreed Sid. "Let's take off our shoes." "You what?" "We'll have to use our toes to tickle." "I don't have any toes." "Tin toes. Just try." The pair kicked off their shoes. Next, with great difficulty, they manoeuvred themselves into positions where their feet were the same level as Gertrude's armpits. For most people, armpits are their most ticklish spot, but when they both tickled the gorilla there, she hardly reacted at all. It was like Gertrude was experiencing a pleasant scratch, rather than something that was going to make her squirm. She smiled to herself and closed her eyes. "She's not ticklish under her armpits," cursed the boy. "Let's try under her chin." Once again, the pair contorted themselves into new positions, where now their feet would be level with the gorilla's chin. "It's not easy at my age," complained Sid, as his bottom found itself under Eric's nose. "Don't make any sudden new movements," snapped the boy, fearing the worst. Now they tickled the gorilla under the chin with their feet. All Gertrude did this time was yawn. "Fiddlesticks!" cursed the boy. "Where on earth is Gertrude ticklish?" If only they'd had this handy guide, where to tickle a gorilla. Under the chin, not ticklish. Behind the ears, not ticklish. Underarms, not ticklish. Belly, not ticklish. Palms of the hands, not ticklish. Behind the knees, not ticklish. Balls of the feet, tickle hot spot. The gorilla ticking experiment went on for quite a while until the pair hit gold, the balls of the feet. Sid and Eric ended upside down doing it. Immediately, the gorilla was whooping with laughter. Not just that, she was rocking and wriggling with such force that the metal chain they were all attached to yanked against the pipe. "Keep going, Gertrude," said Eric. "You can do it, old girl," egged on Sid. With some difficulty, the pair kept tickling the underside of Gertrude's huge hairy feet. The more they tickled, the more she convulsed. The pipe broke in two, spraying sparks of electricity into the cabin. With the pipe snapped, Sid and Eric could free themselves too and scramble to their feet. "Yes!" exclaimed the boy. "The boys are back in business," agreed Sid. They both hugged Gertrude tight. With her ginger eyes, the gorilla indicated the thick rope that was still tied around her. Oh, yes, of course, said Eric. As fast as they could, he and Sid unwrapped her like a Christmas present. There you go, Gertrude. So sorry for tickling you, but it was the only way. The sparks from the electric cables in the pipe were now exploding into the cabin. Fizzle, fazzle, fozzle. It was like a fireworks display. Sparks flew higher and higher until the Nazi flag caught alight. Best thing for it, remarked Sid. However, smoke from the burning flag must have set off an alarm as the U-boat throbbed with the sound of a bell. We need to get out of here, said Eric. At that moment, the cabin door swung open. The Braun twins stood in the doorway, sporting swastika armbands and wielding their machine guns. On seeing the three had escaped from their chains, Bertha barked, We've had quite enough of you three ruining our plans. Prepare to die.